about 12 or 13 years. And I've been working as a faculty member for the Institute since roughly right after I left, about 2012, off and on for the most part. I've taught a number of different courses. My go-to is typically the HR course on hiring and firing and everything in between. We always have a lot of fun in that course. And then I've taught a bunch of different other kinds of courses, but HR is typically my go-to course.
All right, I'll throw it now. I'm just looking at who I see. Kathy.
I'm Kathy Hyde. I'm in Austin, Texas. I've been an IOM instructor since 2004. So I used to be like the baby on the team. Now I kind of feel like I'm the mother, you know. So it's been quite a while. Do a variety of courses depending on what the request is every year. This time for Winter Institute, I'm doing marketing strategies and evolving membership models. My specialty is membership, but I do a lot of strategic planning, and I came out of the association world, and now I serve them, and I've been serving them for 23 years as a consultant. So that's me, and I might take my camera off just so I can finish eating my lunch, and you don't have to watch me eat, but I will be here and participate in any way that's needed. Thank you.
Bless you, Kathy. Thank you. Mike, we'll go to you.
Thank you, Nathan. I'm Mike Gelman. I'm out of the Washington, D.C. area. I teach the finance classes. Like Kathy, I've been here a long time. I think I started in 2008, so you got me beat, Kathy, by a few years. I am a CPA finance person by trade, but I've always worked with nonprofit organizations. Excellent program. Looking forward to sharing insights that I've related to the finance and fiscal side of things.
Thank you, Mike. Bill Lee.
Hi, everybody. Good to see some familiar faces and old friends. Hi, Stephanie, Mike. Good to catch up with you. Kathy. Bill Lee, IOM graduate in 2012, transitioned from there into class advisor and then served on the Board of Regents for Winter Institute for a lengthy time and enjoyed every minute of that. Transitioned into faculty a few years after that, have taught primarily becoming the strategic leader and unleash the leader within. Those are my two favorites, and that's what I'll be doing at Winter this year. Looking forward to the experience again and to seeing everybody. Thanks.
Thanks, Bill. Kelly.
Hi, this is Kelly Hall, Longview, Texas. IOM grad 1994 from a campus called SMU. I've taught several times, basically on leadership, revenue generation, lessons learned, organizational management, those types of topics.
Thank you, Kelly. And I'll go to Karen now.
Hi, Karen Silberman. I'm actually in my car, which is why I don't have my camera on. I'm a first-time teacher, and I'm going to be doing strategic planning.
Welcome, Karen. And I believe the last on my list. Oh, wait, no. I have two people on my list. Bob Thomas, go right ahead.
Hi, I'm Bob Thomas, Chief Operating Officer for the Michigan Chamber of Commerce. I'm also in my car in between appointments, so thanks for indulging. I'm teaching our Foundations Core class, strategic events, and data-driven decision-making. And I've been teaching for almost 10 years now.
Thank you, Bob. And finally, our illustrious chair, Stephanie Parton.
Hi, everyone. Stephanie Parton. I'm with the Indiana CPA Society. So, Mike, thank you for everything you do to make CPAs look good at Institute. I graduated from Winter in 2011. I am the chair of Board of Trustees this year, so we'll be kicking off at Winter in January, and I'm going to be teaching for the first time. Very excited. It was the last thing on my list of things that I've wanted to do, starting easing my way into with a sponsorship solicitation, so an elective. But any advice you can give to me would be greatly appreciated. I'll be going to other sites for the first time, so looking for any insight that you all have from your years of teaching. Just really excited to be here with everyone today.
Thank you, Stephanie. Well, welcome everyone. Those of you who joined in while we were introducing ourselves. Once again, I'm Nathan Graham, obviously not Cece. Cece is feeling a little under the weather today, and so I will be taking her role for today. I'm the senior coordinator, so with Karen, Isabel, Raymond, and Cece. And what I'm going to do is just go through a quick overview. You received this in the faculty orientation packet, and that goes over the different policies. So we'll start with professional language. This is a professional development program. We want to avoid as much swearing and inappropriate language as humanly possible in front of classes, just as, you know, respect to the program itself and to the people in the room. Some people come from very different backgrounds, and some things may not be appropriate to them, and also just ruins their experience overall. However, we do understand that sometimes we do get passionate about a certain subject, but just be aware of that whenever you are teaching. Self-promotion, we've had a little bit of an update to this policy. We tried to avoid as much self-promotion as humanly possible. However, we do understand that you all provide great services to your communities and to people everywhere as we've gone into the more digital age. So we you can now place out a table, a small table of just of any Dale did this at Northeast, but different promotional items if you have them, just to talk about the services you provide. We still want to avoid talking about it during class, but you can just point it out to people. And this is a change because previously it was a table out in the common area. However, that we wanted to make it more relevant to the people. So you can do it when you're in your classroom. The silent auction, if you are interested in participating, this is a great fundraising tool for scholarships, and all of the money goes back into the scholarship. So if you do the silent auction at winter, the money goes straight back into the winter fund for next year to fund scholarships for those who will attend 2025 winter. And the same thing works for the other sites as well. If you want to contribute to that, please contact Cece. She will get you connected and get you set up with everything that you can contribute. It can be a book, it can be anything from your community. We've had various amounts of things come from different places. If you have a particular industry in your community, I know we had one person that had a General Mills factory in their town, and so they brought just a lot of cereal, so that could be auctioned off. It's a great way that we fundraise. It's how we fundraise for our scholarships, and none of the money comes back to Institute to pay salaries or anything like that. All 100% goes right back into scholarships. On-site industry consultations. If you're interested in participating as a facilitator, please let Cece know. She'll get you connected with that. That's the on-site consultations that we do with individual attendees. They fill out a form and they get partnered with you. Y'all connect together and set up those times while we're on site at any of the sites, and provide consultation based on that. This has been a great way that people have developed relationships over time. It's a great networking opportunity, but it's also a great learning opportunity for those of us who have burning questions about whatever subject matter we're looking at. And you all are the experts, so we'd like to go directly to you. All classes for winter specifically will take place at the Student Union, which is about a 5 to 10 minute walk from the hotel, the Marriott nearby. With regards to booking the hotel, as faculty, you do not have to book your hotel yourself. That is taken care of on our end, just in case you were questioning that. Stephanie, is the same for you as well. You just have a separate thing because you play a double role here. So I think Stephanie gets an upgraded suite is what I'm hearing. You should plan to arrive at the classroom location about 30 minutes before this class is scheduled to begin. This is so that we can ease the setup process. As we all know, technology plays a role in our life and can play a role in the demise of your classroom experience. So we want to protect that as much as humanly possible. And if there are any problems such as adapters or you need a cable, please, if you already have your supplies, please bring them. However, we do have adapters on site. You will see me running around with a little baby blue bag that has all of my adapters in it, and I will hand them out to you. If I don't receive those adapters, I will remember who I gave it to. So, and I will come hunting for it. However, if you don't return it, please just keep it and do whatever you want with it. I will buy another one. But I will find you on site if you do, if I find you. If you need a computer, we do have one extra laptop that we can do for ourselves. However, if we need more, we can obviously, there is a rental fee that we have to pay on campus. Don't worry about that, but please, if you need a laptop, please let CC know beforehand, or let me know, and we will set up a list and everything, or we will need to pay the rental fee, but we need to know that as soon as humanly possible. But most of us, I believe, have laptops or iPads that we can control off of, but just in case, we do have that option. And as always, if you have any questions, feel free to email CC or the iom@uschamber.com email, and we will get back to you with whatever answer. If you also have a question about what adapter you may need, I know this has come up, please send it to either CC or myself at IOM, and we can take a picture of the side of your laptop. I'm pretty good at telling which adapter you might need off of that, and we'll either already have the adapter or purchase an adapter just to accommodate for that. Otherwise, I will throw it over to our first presenter, Dale Wilshire. She will handle for our new faculty perspective. She is a brand new faculty as well. Well, she's taught one time, so slightly less new, whatever. So she will present the new faculty perspective. So go right ahead, Dale.
Thanks, Nathan. I'll know to watch my language. I don't think that was a problem in my reviews, but I'm thinking, like, did I let something slip? Holy cow. So I thoroughly enjoyed my experience at Northeast. I got to meet Kelly while I was there. I mean, and that lobster bake was like the best thing I ever did. So I'm going back, I hope, for that. So the question was, what did I expect? And I don't know that I had a lot of expectations. I speak a lot at conferences and events, and usually I know the room set up. And I think what was challenging for me is not really understanding how the rooms would be set up. Obviously, the bigger second years had a much bigger space. And then the fourth year, we had a much tighter as a smaller group. So I think understanding the room setup, and so that was not a question I asked. And what I found as I went through this, when you're new to something, and this might just be me, but y'all will have to share it, sometimes I don't like to ask as many questions because I would like to not look like I have no idea what I'm doing. But the people that I did ask questions, Cece and Nathan, were always fantastic. And then they referred me to Justin and Pam, and there were a couple other people that I was able to reach out to, and they were fantastic because I really had no idea what to expect. So they were able to kind of talk me off the ledge a little bit, and I appreciated getting slides ahead of time just to see the variety of ways that people might teach it. Because when I looked at the curricula list of what types of things that you want to cover, it's a lot of material. That's like an all-day event. And so that was one of my great stressors, was how to fit all that material in without putting people to sleep and making sure I did it in my time frame. And truly, some of them you're going to have to just cover a little bit, and others you get to go deep. And so I just use kind of my specialty and what I do to do that. But I did find that in one way, I think I was a little too worried about, the title of managers who motivate in the curricula list. There was nothing really about motivation. I kept thinking, well, I do a lot of motivation, but it's not listed here. And it was actually something that one of the pieces of feedback I got was where was the motivation? Where were those tools? So I think I would have maybe pushed, asked a question or two and maybe added that, even though it wasn't in the list, because people were expecting it from the title. And certainly that's what they wanted to do with their teams. So what I wasn't aware of either, or maybe just didn't think much about, was the handout situation. Some of the things I did, especially in Managers Who Motivate, required people to be able to fill out a test that I had brought. And that's tough to do if you're just looking at something on a screen. And so realizing that people were not going to print things out ahead of time, and a lot of people had never looked at things ahead of time, I probably would have brought some things that were necessary, and then just maybe made some of my handouts, if I don't know if we have this capability, Nathan, but editable in some way, shape, or form. So I think just being aware of what I was offering and making sure that things that did need to get filled out, maybe I just took control and brought them for everybody. So the handout situation, that's something that I will do better next time. I was so tickled by the level of engagement and just how hungry everyone was to discuss. Of course, by fourth year, they know each other really well. And so giving them novel ways to learn things about each other, I thought that was really fun to be able to do. And so while they're engaging with the content, they're really learning from each other. And so letting the genius in the room speak, I think, was probably one of the best things that I could do, truly, is just kind of facilitate some of those discussions and make sure I left room for that. And one thing I did, especially in my smaller group, that helped me was I really spent time going through LinkedIn and getting to know every single person in that smaller class. So I was able to even ask more pointed questions and reference some things. And so I think they felt more connected to me because nobody knew me at all when I stepped in there. And I wish I would have taken a little bit more time to do it for the bigger class. I did, but I forgot a lot of it because it was big. So I think making me feel like I knew them made it a easier way to interact with everyone there. So that type of investment of time was so worth it. And then my recommendations, just as brand new, were, if you have questions, ask Cece or Nathan for people to talk to and see what other people have done with their slides, just to see. I think it just gives you confidence that you don't have to do it a certain way. You can, certain things you'll probably bring in that are standard, but I think that way you felt a little bit more freedom to bring in what I wanted to. And then I think that's kind of everything. And if you do go to Northeast, make sure you go to that lobster bake and dress appropriately because the butter is flying. So that's all.
Thank you, Dale. Yes, so I forgot to mention, there is the way the classroom is set up. For winter, it is a classroom style, your typical classroom style. The sizing changes. It's not like an auditorium style. Some of the Northeast rooms are set up auditorium style. These are all flat classroom areas. Some of them are going to be smaller than others based on the size of the class. Right now, one of our classes has like 40 in it, and one of them has 20 or so, around 20. So it can vary based on that. So let me throw it over for our attendee profile to Kelly Hall.
Great job, Dale. Great job. So I get to talk about fun things, numbers. I love numbers and data. So I was glad CC asked me to do this. So when we're looking at the demographics, I just wanted to give you some highlights about registrants. So class number, we have about 255 participants a year. They range from, the four different groups pretty evenly across the board. Credentials, I'll go to gender next. This probably won't surprise you. 72% are women, 28% are male, 67% are with chambers, 24% are with associations, 8% other, not sure what that means. As far as states that represent, fabulous job of state representation. However, there are some 6 that stand out, being Texas, Colorado, DC, California, Oklahoma, and Washington. Those are the top states that send their staff. So we have some work to do there. We actually had a person from Iraq and one from Lebanon this year. So diversity is very strong. When we look at the elective classes next, that's the next thing I'm going to talk about. Again, good participation pretty much overall, with the exception of one class that the team needs to reconsider or revisit the sales pitch. And the one that gets they had the least registrants was 8 this year. And it was called Building a Brighter Future, Business Leadership and Education, which if I read that, I don't know that I would really understand what that title means. And that may have something to do with it. But as far as top classes, revenue stream, building organizational excellence, unleash the leader within, sponsorship, strong chambers for the future, creating a future-ready workforce, using data to grow and sustain your organization, the art of persuasion, and delivering value. So definitely some trends there as far as topics and what our customers are looking for when they're picking out their electives. But we have a really good selection of electives, but those all tied for first place with number of participants if they showed up for that class. So good elective choices. Questions? Anything else you want me to cover, Nathan?
No, I think you did everything. Nope. Just one thing I was like building off of what you said, Kelly. Whenever even though we have a lower amount of associations, we still want to make them feel included. It's the whole thing is we have a policy of inclusivity. And we've received feedback sometimes that they didn't even hear a mention of association in there. We also have general nonprofits that come to Institute. There's at least 5 or so that usually attend, and we want to make the experience just as good for them as it was for a chamber. We do understand that you have to target where you're talking, and a lot of you may have more experience in chambers than general nonprofits or even with associations, but just in your mind, plan for that. And if you need some like resources to help back that up, we can do what Dale said. We can connect you together with another faculty member who may have some association experience, who can provide some resources to help that. And we also have the ACCE and ASAE. We have those resources on the back end that we can provide and gather up and provide those resources to you so that it makes your teaching experience more wholesale for everyone.
I will say, Nathan, one of the things I love teaching at Northeast too, and one of the things I really like is because it is such almost a 50-50 blend there. Mm-hmm. And I learn as much in a class because it's association. And so when it comes to co-branding or, there is some different things that associations do, and they do better than chambers of commerce. And that gets me hyped up and excited because I'm creating notes on a flip chart while people are spouting off ideas, and they get tickled, because in chamber world, we lock into our tunnels too often. And I appreciate the association lens at the table.
Yes. Good call out there, Kelly.
Hey, Kelly, before you go, I want to echo that. And I always kind of remind the chamber folks that they can learn a lot from associations, even though they are different in the sense that they serve, a profession or a trade. I find that because they tend to be either national or statewide, that they use technology a lot more. They don't have the same programming that chambers do. Their funding, especially around education, they do a lot of CEUs, a lot of training. They make a lot of money from that. And so so they're different, right? There's different kinds of ways we learn. We can benchmark with people who are just like us, but we have just as much to learn from people who are different than us. They're still a member-based organization, but who they serve and how they serve is different. And I find that associations tend to be early adopters of trends, and I don't think chambers are as much. So I love seeing the associations in the audience, and sometimes if they're smaller in the class, they don't always speak up. I think they're sensitive to the fact that most of the class are chambers. So calling on them and asking them to share their experiences and practices are good because they have a lot to offer, but they can feel a little overwhelmed when it's predominantly chamber people. So.
Thank you for that call out, Kathy.
Nathan, can I ask Kelly a question? Kelly, course. Another dynamic, and like Kathy, been doing this a long time, there's lots of ways to slice the pie. One of the ones that I'm really, because I, like a lot of you, do a lot of classes, all different places, not just to know the difference between a chamber and association or an economic development council and all that, is also the staff sizes and the budget sizes. Because I think more of the intimidation comes from not, oh, I'm a chamber, you're an association. It's like, I'm a, 2-staffed organization and you're a 55 staff. I think that's where they separate in the hallway. So when you're looking at the list, I always go down that profile list and you can tell pretty quick. And the other thing to comment on, Kathy, you and I have talked about this in the, you might go to like the winter and it's like, in 3/4, 1/4. But you might, that class, especially in that 4th year class, it might be 50-50. Or that one class won't necessarily reflect the whole, so I always go down the roster list, but I take a quick look at the roster list right before I go back in the room, because sometimes I'm teaching 7 classes there and I just, just to remind myself, okay, I got a lot of small groups, big, but I think that, I don't know, any of you else have that? I think that's the big, where you can disillusion people and they go, oh, all what Mike's saying is just, for big organizations, not so much chamber
And also
association.
associations may not have a lot of staff either, but they have massive budgets to work with. And so that was one of the things we had to break through some barriers on was, I think I'm trying to remember, I think the largest chamber had about a $10 million budget. And then we had an organization in there that had 3 people on staff and they had like a $15 million budget. And it was just like, because they're using CRM systems and they're using tools so differently than a chamber where we're like going, oh, if we have 1,000 members, then we should have 5.5 people on staff. That's the new trend. And they don't care. They're looking at how they utilize resources at a whole different level. And that
Exactly.
That goes back to what you're saying about understanding who's in the room.
Understand, exactly. Because like if you're mostly, I'll use one example and then I'll shut up. But everybody has some sort of staff. And if I tend to work with a lot of really large staffed organizations, I would go in, well, did you run that by the HR department? Like HR department, we don't have departments, or you start referring to different C-suite positions. What about the CIO or understand? So you just got to really, you can turn people off without saying a dirty word real quick. Cause like all of a sudden they go, oh, he's just working on big nationals or something.
Yeah.
So I try to like remind myself, it's just that. So.
And I'm going to piggyback and shut up on something Dell mentioned, because we're a mid-sized chamber and we don't have a lot of staff. We don't have staff taking 2 and 3 weeks at a time away from the office. And so I email the handouts in advance to the class with a personal note. I always send them 2 weeks in advance, and I'm shocked with how many people are out for 2 weeks in a row. And so when newbies come on board, encourage them to have their materials done a month in advance and reach out give people more than 2 weeks because they're not going to have the material.
Very good call outs. I would never tell any one of you to shut up. I'll let Cece or Raymond deal with that kind of stuff. I'm the nice one, I guess. So yeah, thank you, Kelly, for all of that. I did understand Kelly has to hop off, but so we'll say goodbye to Kelly. I will pass it back who again, I will never tell to shut up, Mike Gelman, for our preparing effective presentation materials.
Yeah, and you know what? Kelly just made a quick comment. Each of our classes are different. I actually, I've already got my PowerPoints into CC one time. I have handouts because, finance, I want to talk about that. The numbers just don't show up on PowerPoints and things. I have to, people in the back of the room just can't see it. But in my classes, I make a lot of the handouts available right before or after I distribute them to people because people start jumping ahead and they get lost in the handout. So if your class it works early, go for it. Just think about it. And that's what I wanted to say about the handouts. And Nathan, you and I have talked about, how, different, you go into some presentation. I've heard Kathy present many times. You go, wow, I want to be Kathy, but you need to be yourself. Everybody has their different style and different topics, and you just figure out what works for you, and people know that you're being genuine. And so here's the big shot. For me, the PowerPoint, it's really like me, it's sort of not a script. It's just something to keep me on time. You can't put everything you're doing in there. They get too heavy, the PowerPoints. It's really, and be aware of, watching the time. The biggest enemy in the room, right, Nathan, we always talk about is how many minutes you got. And these classes are very interactive, and I know Pam's going to talk about this, right? And I love teaching in cohorts. You get a lot, but you can lose track of the time real quick. So design your PowerPoints sort of reflect the curriculum, because it's a lot of the curriculums I've read, especially the ones I have, and it'll say about 30. It's about a third. Usually you got 3 sections. Just be aware they don't have to be balanced and all that. But I think, Nathan, the kiss of death is to not just get through, but to miss a whole section. I think, Dale, you talked about, like someone said it was in there. So I try to be conscious to hit some, but I've had years where I've taught the same class 3 times when there's been 3 first-year classes. No 3 of them are like they can even be back to back. Each one has a different, and that's okay. Figure out. So when you're designing your handouts, and the PowerPoint especially, keep them light. And the classes are very interactive, knowing you're going to be pausing and how you put that in. I know, Pam, I don't want to get into your area because a lot of this has to do with engagement in the classes and things. But I don't know if any of you do a lot of these classes. To me, it's just like, here's where I need to be, 30 minutes in, 90 minutes in, here's the break. Those kind of things. So I take, but Dale, you're the first person who said this, and I always feel ecologically bad, but I bring handouts almost everywhere I teach, Dale, just like the chamber. It's paperless system, but not everybody has a computer. Some people have things, and it's just you want to try it. So if there's a critical part, pausing for dramatic effect, like there's a top 10 list or something you have that really pulls it, bring that, make some copies, and just hand them out, during the class. I think that's the best thing. And with the PowerPoints, less is more. And Pam, I don't know about you, but I will let people know in the PowerPoint, because that goes out ahead of time. Like, we have an interactive section here. We have like almost like a breakout room, we're doing live, but different where the engagements are going to be. And I just try to have a lot of built-in questions, almost like a polling question that you to get things interactive. But that's what I wanted to share. Any questions? Anybody have any comments on that? But I schlepp some handouts with me. I don't bring the PowerPoint though. I'm assuming everybody will be able to get to that, but I have that. I've always said, boy, I have financial statements. I can't do finance classes without some. You cannot, not only can you not read it on a PowerPoint when you're in the back row, and at Arizona, I think had there's some of those rooms are narrow and long. There's no way, like an eye test, you can't even see the logo of the chamber in the back row. You know what I mean? So just be aware. So having like those reports, I pass out my sample financial reports and things.
Thank you, Mike. Yeah, I will say there are some shotgun style, if that's the best way to describe it, the classrooms that are very narrow. And yeah, I will agree. There are some, I have glasses on and sometimes I can't see it. So if I'm standing in the back, like taking a picture or observing the class. I will say for the presentation style thing, we had a template last year, and in previous years we updated the template again. It has caused some like technological difficulties with certain things. Mike, I know you've experienced this with one of your PowerPoints, I think in 2022.
It's working now.
It's working now.
It's working good. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't mean to interrupt, but go ahead. Yeah.
We tried to fit.
Yeah.
I redid it, and so it now works, I guess. But just in case you already have a PowerPoint, or well, we do want you to develop a PowerPoint for our program specifically. If you have your own design style, if you have a branding thing, we will only require that you have the title slide with the U.S. Chambers logo on it, and then the final slide with the QR code. And I'll get more into that a little bit later. But just that is a requirement. But if you have your own signature design style, I'm thinking of Justin Patton right now because he has his own signature design. If you just include those slides, that is all we need. It's no longer you have to do the template all the way through. If you'd like to do the template, obviously that is open to you. We have all of those resources available to you. So, all right. And I will shut up and let Pam talk about intro to engagement techniques and tips.
Sure. I've always enjoyed these calls because I always learn something new. I feel like a perpetual student. So thank all of you. So many things. One of the things I always say is everything that we have is in the room, right? So even if we don't have all of the information on the slides, you have such great content and the people who are sitting in the room that the association people will learn from, the chamber people, and et cetera. And so I always make sure that I spend time in the room, not having them introduce one another because they've already done that, but really helping them. And I think Dale might have said it earlier, just seeing the wealth of the knowledge that's in the room. So even though I may have an answer, right, I will often say, well, let's hear from some of you. And if it's a chamber person, I'll say, okay, well, let me hear from an association person. Or does anyone else have small person, small business? How about large? And what do you all think? And really start to get them to see one another as resources. And that doesn't diminish us as subject matter experts because they're going to come to us for the most part, but it just brings them all into the room. It is different as well for larger groups than smaller groups. So if you're going to have a small roster and you're at the end of the day, that is like the kiss of death because they are watching their clocks and they have shortened your time by 30 minutes and they will try to get out early. And so part of their technique is they'll be really quiet. And I will joke with them kind of, sort of, and I'll say, look, I'm a coach, so I can deal with silence all day and night long. So if y'all want to just sit here and we look at each other for the next 2 hours, and that's what we will do. And then they laugh and then we kind of come together. And we talk until the end and they, oh my goodness, I can't believe it's time to go. Yeah, that silence thing really works. And so we kind of, what I tell people to do is I don't put all of my activities on the slide. What I will do is have hip pocket activities, just in case they're really into something. Like one year we were doing, I was doing hiring, firing, and it was all the rage about marijuana and CBD. So I swear they wanted to talk all day about that. And then there was this whole thing on sexual harassment. They wanted to talk all day about that. So I try to just mix it in and get it in where I can. And sometimes the small groups, I may have them count off and get in groups depending on the size. Hey, 1, 2, 3, and then 1, 2s, and 3s, you all get together and et cetera. I may have them work geographically because that allows them to build network across, closer geographically because they share some things if they're in the geographic region in terms of laws and regulations on some of the stuff. And then the other thing I do is try to remember to get to them in advance as much as I possibly can. So I'll send out a note to say, hey, we're going to be in, this particular course together. I'm your facilitator. I'll send them my LinkedIn to connect with me on LinkedIn if they want to. And then I'll say, tell me what are some pressing issues around this topic that we have to address. Like, give me 1 or 2, not even 3, like 1 or 2 pressing issues. And then I'll use that to make sure that I incorporate it into the program. That makes it much easier for me to address what their specific needs are in the room, and I can always adjust based on that. And then I will do. I like to talk about stories. So my model is somebody got the mic open or something. Somebody unmuted because I couldn't, it was echoing. So I will say information tells, stories sell. So I have a lot of information up, but I'm always telling a story. I'm trying to get a story. Like, who has a situation that you would like to talk about that we can kind of work through together? And then that also helps to minimize a lot of the questions I get at break and a lot of questions I'll get during the lunchtime, because sometimes I am literally working straight through because people want to talk about some of the challenges that they're facing. And it's great from a business development perspective. It's not so good when you haven't eaten and you've been on your feet and all you're doing is drinking water and coffee. So it's how do you kind of incorporate some of that. They love the storytelling. I often will go before the break, right before the break, and I'll tell a story and I'll say, what do you think? And they'll say, well, I said, why don't we wait until we come back from the break? And you can, this is our commercial break. And they always go, oh, boo, I can't believe you're doing this. I said, well, you're going to bring your butts back, aren't you? And you're going to be on time. So it's finding a way to keep it alive and engaging. Don't feel like you're wedded to the presentation deck. That's I think, Mike, you said it, everyone said it, it's just a guide. And I will say at the beginning of the class, we're all adult learners. I'm not going to read the slides. You should have done that ahead of time. I'm going to speak to it, but we're going to move, and hopefully you'll have a chance. So I really try to treat them like adult learners and not like children. Don't read any of the slides or do any of that stuff, and try to make it as interactive as possible by group size. And then I try to move and be with them. So I don't like just being at the front of the room. I really like to kind of interact, and I'll move among the room, move among them in the room and spend time with them. A presenter trick that I use is if you have someone that is a little disruptive, and every now and then you get that talker, right? And they just have all the answers, and they should be instructing, not you. I might go to where they are and stand near them to give them the spotlight that they want, and that usually calms them down. They don't really want the spotlight, but they do want the spotlight. And so once you give them the spotlight, they like hand it back and they're good. So just little things like that allow for, and then if you have a real like disruptive talker at a break, you can have a conversation with them. But that's just, one of the things. And then following up after the session, I'm glad we're relaxing some of the rules. It's interesting because I typically don't do a lot of follow-up afterward, but they're like my little commercials, because I've been doing this for such a long time. I'll have people say, if you're not on her newsletter list, you got to get on her newsletter list. And I'll say, thank you, and I'm paying you for that after the class, right? But I will, talk about, for example, I'll have, and I did this because of Institute, is I created bookmarks with some points on them. Like I have thought-provoking questions because I'm a coach, so leadership questions. And then on the back, I have a QR code that gives them access to the academy that we have. So I'll put those bookmarks out and they can have those. That's a low investment than trying to do something in the room. And then for the auction, I will auction off my, a virtual 1 hour training, a leadership training of their choice. I'll do that. And then I'll also put together like a book bundle. So I've done a bunch of books. I'll do a book bundle and give that for the auction. So there's lots of ways to sort of get your brand out there I don't do any selling in the room. I just really enjoy my time there. And if the work comes, it comes. If it doesn't, it was just a great opportunity to give back. So that's what I got.
All right, thank you, Pam. Well, we have some questions. We have hands in the air for Pam. So let's go to Dale first.
Yeah, thanks, Pam. My question is about the response rate you get when you ask for issues ahead of time. What % of people are really getting back to you?
Probably less than 1%.
Okay, thank you.
But you know what I do when I get in the room? I'll say, look, if y'all didn't get it, I'm not going to spend time, because I got dinged on that one year. I spent too much time finding out in the room which I want to focus on. And I'm like, oh. So I said, look, thank you to the people who responded. These are the things that I received. Let's focus on these. And if at a break you want to add to that, please feel free. And then I can cross it off. Like we've addressed those things, but very few people actually respond.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Back to the slide presentation. Oh, I was going to just say real quick, a trick I do a long time ago is, how you have your cover slide with your name and in the course and your whatever, your email. I copy that and make it also the last slide, because how we get in and everybody wants to run, so it's back up there. Because I already mentioned who I am at the beginning, and then I say at the end, it's like, okay, here's my email again. So it takes 2 seconds to make an extra copy of the top slide and make it the last slide.
And put your LinkedIn QR code on there, and they love that. Or your website QR code. Like if you at least do your LinkedIn QR code, or if you have a website QR code, put that on the very last slide, leave it up, and just talk till they're all out of the room. And you'll be surprised how many people are actually just taking pictures of that QR code.
Good point. Yep.
Oh, so Bill.
Yeah, hi there. Great point on that, and on kind of determining those expectations right off the bat in the room. Yeah, Dale, it's usually probably around 1%, but it also gives you a chance to make sure that you're addressing those things that other people may be thinking but not expressing. And so you get a chance to probably what you're going to cover is in the deck and what they're expecting is in the deck, but it also gives you that chance to make sure that you're going to hit those other expectations in case it's not. So I think it's just important to kind of set that tone off the beginning as well. So I appreciate you bringing that up.
Yeah. And one of the other things that I will do is at the beginning of the class, I will talk about sort of that Vegas zone, because we're often talking about very sensitive things. And I'll just say, hey, I'm not going to share information. Let's just pledge that we're in Vegas, and that if anybody talks about this outside of this room, it is not Pam Green. I did not say anything, right? But I'll ask them to change the names to protect the innocent, but really create a brave space for them to be able to share at the top of throughout the that way we can get more done in the room, and then we don't spend a lot of time outside of the room. So thank you all.
Thank you, Pam. Does anyone have any other questions for Pam or anyone in general? We're at the end of our actual presentations for each person. I will have a few more things to go through, but does anyone have any questions specifically for Pam, Mike, Dale, and anyone else in the group?
I have a question. I was just curious about how we can find out what our room layout is going to be, because you were talking about in Arizona, some of them are long and skinny. Just curious if we'll know in advance what kind of room we're looking at.
Not that far in advance. I believe it's whenever you get on site, because because there might be some changes. Sometimes we get there and there's some we have an air conditioning issue at Northeast or something like that, which shocking that that's an actual issue, but all right. But we do get some changes. Most of them will be just your basic rectangular room. It's just how long they are. You do get a class size beforehand because you're obviously reaching out. So you will know that you will have a bigger class or a smaller class, and just adjusting on that scale, basically.
Okay.
And if you do have any further questions, like we do go ahead and assign the rooms, you can connect with Cece on that, and she can give you a better description of each room. Just once we assign each room to each person.
We are on campus again, right?
Yes, you are on this will all be done at the Student Union at ASU, or not ASU, University of Arizona.
Ooh, careful there.
Oh God, yeah, no. Stephanie was about to come after me there for a moment. I can feel it.
I have a couple questions for the group. So for an elective, since it's only 2 hours, a shorter amount of time, would you recommend cutting back on group activities, or do you think it's still important, or any feedback there?
I would say it just depends on how engaging they are. Sometimes this is really what I have seen. It's the size of the group, not the number of hours of the presentation. The size of the group, sometimes and the time of day. Early morning, they're all amped, they've had their coffee, and they will just run over the whole thing. By the time you get toward the end of the day, they start to whittle down. So if you have, some hip pocket things that you can do, it makes it much easier. But I don't know what others' experiences have been.
Yeah, I don't, maybe a little more conscious of having an exercise where people have to move their chairs around or something, but I think engagement's just as important. And sometimes you could argue engagement's more important in the electives because the classes get broken up and you get back into that thing where people don't know each other all the time. especially like the first years are sitting in these classes where they might have a third or fourth year next to them. And so I just try to do a lot of real little bits of interactions. There's different ways to do it. Sort of use the Socratic way. I ask a lot of questions for people to respond to.
Okay, thank you. My other question was, so I know a lot of you have been teaching these classes for years and years and years, but if you were to be teaching a brand new class to you, how do you go about that? Do you just write your outline out of your head? Do you look at other facilitators who have done it before, look at their slides to get ideas? Any advice there?
Go ahead, Bill.
I would just say, Stephanie, be yourself, be authentic, right? Yeah, you can certainly do the research from other people's slide decks and that sort of thing, and see what they've done in the past, and that may spark some ideas. I can tell you that when I first started doing this, I borrowed a couple of slide decks from previous instructors and found that the information was good, but it was not the way I would present it. And so just finding those little ideas and that captivate you and make you and your authentic self up there. I'll be real honest. There have been times in the room, and this goes back to leaning into that wealth of knowledge and the genius that's already in the room. There have been questions I've been hit with, like, you know what? I'm completely vulnerable here. I'm going to be open and transparent. I don't know the answer to that. But has somebody had to deal with that? And let's talk about how you did deal with it. And so usually, as it has been said, the geniuses in the room come up with great ideas and things like that too. So I would just, my advice to you is just do the research, make it your own, and have fun with it. And know that the time is going to go incredibly fast. It screams by. The next thing you know, you're done, right? And you're off the stage. And I'm sorry about the train. I'm not sitting on the train track.
Yeah, watch out, Bob.
Right.
I am right next to the train track.
Train, Bill. Only thing I would add is you know what? I like checking the easy box. So if there's existing presentations out there, girl, I run for them things so fast. And then I would look and see that compared to what is expected in the class, and then add your little extra. And it just makes it much easier. So you don't reinvent something that is all, because the instructors that have come before you have done some phenomenal work. And I would say it's probably useful. Just add your little stuff to it, make sure it's aligned with what they're expecting. And it just makes it makes it easier for you to focus on what it is you want to do in the room. So that's the only thing I would add to what Bill shared.
Awesome.
Excellent.
Thanks, everyone.
Excellent call outs. Does anyone else have any other questions? I'm also conscious of time, but whatever help we can help in the next few moments probably will help you get along your institute journey. All right. Oh, did anyone have anything else? Nope.
I wanted to say thank you. I appreciate all the feedback and the tips. It was really helpful. Definitely makes me feel better about my first time teaching. So I really appreciate the time and just all of your experiences sharing. It's made an impression. I've taken a lot of notes. So thank you.
All right.
There's a lot of faculty in this, right, Nathan? I've called Karen, multiple times over the years, and she'll go, "Oh, you should really reach out to so-and-so." It's not just the faculty that year, it's from 2 or 3 years ago. It ends up being hundreds of names and you just don't remember. So if you have a question, reach out to Nathan, CC, Karen, and they'll mention the name and you'll go, "That's great." And that'll really help you.
All right. Thank you, Mike. Let me roll through the last few things. So course evals, we take them very seriously. They are our guide to make the curriculum better. allocate 5 minutes at the end to encourage attendees to complete. There's a QR code slide that we have provided you on the faculty resource page to add to your slides. It will take them straight to the page to select what section of the class they need to. It'll be like Thursday, whatever, 1:30 to 5:30, that kind of class. And then they select your class from it. Obviously, kind of remind them of your name, because your name will be attached to one of the choices so that they fill out the right course eval. We consider this all for future faculty placement. We consider it all for how we change the curriculum. This is taken back to the curriculum committee so that we can make appropriate changes to the class. And they take it all very seriously. The curriculum committee meetings can get very intense with how we word things specifically. I think we spent 10 minutes one time on how a comma was placed. It was great. And so we take that feedback very seriously. There will also be a time for you to give feedback to us on your experience. We have a faculty feedback survey, just so that we can make all of our faculty feel more comfortable teaching, getting feedback from y'all. We care about your feedback as much as we care about the student or the attendee feedback, just so that everyone can have a good institute experience all the way around. Other than that, I have nothing else to share with you today. If you need one last confidence booster, you're here for a reason. There's a reason why the curriculum committee and CC have picked you to teach. And so therefore, if you need that confidence booster just to go into your first class for you, Karen and Stephanie, you're here for a reason. Stephanie, you're also here because you're the Board of Trustees chair. So double that one up. But you are teaching for a reason, and it's because we've selected you. And it's not because you just had a nice personality. It's because you also had a good expertise in it as well. So remember that. And otherwise, if you have any other questions, feel free to ask me. But I will also direct any questions to CC.
Okay, thank you all so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you all.
You're
Bye.
welcome. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.